I find myself outside my home, quickly becoming soaked by a heavy rain. Through the thick storm, I can see a dark figure slowly approaching. Something about this person feels unwelcome, dangerous. I hurry into my car and start the engine. Backing out as the figure begins to walk faster, I shift into drive and floor it. Speeding down the long gravel drive, I glance in my rearview mirror to see the figure behind me, his features shrouded in unnatural darkness. I wonder how he could have gotten there so quickly without running. Shrugging off the curious thoughts, my mind focuses on the end of the drive. I don't even look to see if any vehicles are approaching. I just want to get far away from this ghoul. I've never driven so recklessly before. It feels so unnatural. Tearing through a sharp turn, I hurry down the road, the tires slinging water behind my frantic path. My breathing quickens as my hands grip the steering wheel more tightly. I dare not look in the mirror. Roaring around another turn, I quickly realize I'm going too fast. The car begins to tip over and rolls onto a bare lawn. Miraculously, I am not seriously harmed, but dazed and confused. Crawling out of the mangled mass of metal, I look back to see the blackened figure approaching, not far off. I desperately try to climb to my feet, but stumble back to my hands and knees clumsily. A dreadful shadow casts itself over me, and I look back quickly to see the haunting entity standing right behind me. Panting quick, terrified breaths, I shield myself with my arms as a dark hand reaches out for me. Upon contact, I feel all the life in my body instantly abandon me. Letting out a frightened gasp, my eyes pop open. Within a few moments, I realize I am in bed and covered in sweat. My body feels terribly cold, tremors assaulting my tense muscles. I wipe my damp forehead and look over at the alarm clock to see what time it is. 3:57 a.m., the clock reads. With a heavy sigh, I look over at the bird cage near my bed and unlock the door. Opening it, my faithful parakeet, Ivy, steps onto my outstretched finger. She looks at me, seemingly with concern. I gently stroke her soft back as she stares at me with her green eyes. Another bad dream, Ivy, I explain. Seems I've been having those a lot lately. Good thing I have you here to keep me company. I let Ivy inspect my sweaty face as I lay in bed, staring up at the dark ceiling. I'm trying to decipher the meaning behind these dreadful nightmares, yet nothing comes to mind. Things have been going well in my life. I'm happy with where I am in it. But lately I've just had such trouble with sleep. My muscles feel tense and tired. I know I need rest and put Ivy back in her cage. Closing my eyes, I quickly drift off back into the world of slumber. This time I find myself by a dark river, the current raging at a strong speed. I seem to be in a valley between some mountains, with the clear open sky above me. Something shines brightly in the raging water. I slowly move closer to inspect the gleaming object. As my feet come near the river's edge, the shining object hurries towards me. A monstrous alligator bursts through the surface, its massive jaws wide open. Before I can react, they clamp down on my right ankle and drag me under the water. Consumed with terror, I struggle to free myself and swim to the surface, but have no chance of overpowering the horrible beast. The strong current sends water up my nose as I feel myself being dragged deeper into the river. It seems like a bottomless abyss, as if we'll never stop sinking. My lungs fill with water as I involuntarily breathe for air and begin to feel dazed and lightheaded. I know my strength is fading fast, my eyes slowly closing against my will. Suddenly, I find myself back by the river, once more drawn to a gleaming flash within the water. The horrible experience haunts me again, reliving the terror of hopelessly drowning to my death. The stream repeats itself at least a dozen times. I am aware I am dreaming, but cannot escape this cruel tragedy. I only die again and again, the agony just as strong each time, until finally I awaken in bed. My breathing harsh and quick, I discover my pillow is stained with perspiration. I can tell by the window it is morning, sunlight peeking in through the faded shades. Rising to my feet, I drowsily shuffle into the nearby bathroom and douse my face with cool water. It is a very welcome, refreshing feeling. Drying my face off, I gaze at my reflection in the mirror, noticing how bloodshot my eyes are. I feel so restless, emotionally drained more than physically. I go into the kitchen and make myself a bowl of cornflakes. Eating the cereal, I ponder what my purpose here is. There's nothing to do today, no urge for adventure in my exhausted body. I search within myself for a productive desire, but all I feel like doing is going back to bed. I fear I will just have more bad dreams, but I know I need the rest. It consumes me, tears at me like sharp claws, the fatigue taunting my every sluggish movement. Eventually giving in to my weakness, I shuffle back into my room and collapse into my inviting bed. My mind feels fully awake, unlike my restless body. I can't seem to fall back asleep no matter how much I toss and turn. Desperate, I retrieve some sleeping pills from the medicine cabinet in the bathroom and swallow 2 of them. After maybe 10 minutes, my focus slowly dissolves, my eyelids gradually close. When I open my eyes, only an endless field of wonderful grass and elegant, colorful flowers lies ahead of me. I feel a sense of relief within this place, as though maybe this will be a good dream after all. Wandering through the endless, beautiful meadow of tall, thick flowers, I pick a few here and there. Their wonderful scents fill my nostrils, relaxing every muscle in my body. "Mark," a familiar voice calls out from my left side. I look over to see my deceased mother, looking as happy and healthy as ever. "Mom!" I run up to her and embrace her tightly. She returns my affection, asking, "Where have you been all this time?" "Me? But, Mom, you've been dead for years," I explain, giving her a confused look. Her stony blue eyes look back at me as she smiles, replying, "No, I haven't, Mark. I've just been away, that's all." As her gentle hand touches my cheek, she says, "You must have had a bad dream." My confusion only grows as her words reach my ears. "No, I remember. You died in that fire at our old home." My mother gives me a strange look, her tone gradually becoming distorted as she asks, "Do you need a midnight snack? You don't need any more nightmares." I slowly back away as her flesh begins to decay, giving her a sickly and malnourished appearance. "What's wrong, Mark? Don't you recognize your own mother?" she asks as her eyes roll into the back of her head, the sky filling with dark rain clouds. As the woman's eyes fall out of their sockets, I begin to run away in terror. "I love you, honey," she calls out, her voice reverberating strangely. "Don't you love me? Please, let's go home." As I rush through the storm beginning to pour down, the once friendly-looking flowers start to wither into an endless mass of dead plants. The entire scenery is covered in horror and darkness by now. Everywhere I look, multiple corpses of my mother are rising out of the tombstones that were hidden by the dark flowers. They follow after me slowly, her voice coming from all directions, pleading for me to love her. I slip in a slick puddle of water, the side of my skull colliding into a large tombstone. All sounds start to waver and dance, the colors blending together as I feel a warm liquid leaking from my wound. Decayed hands grab onto my limbs and begin dragging me away. I am too dazed from my injury to fight. "Go back to bed, Mark," the cacophonies of distorted voices chant as I try to reach out for one of the graves to hold on to. A rather large tombstone moves aside to reveal a dark hole in the earth. The corpses pull me up to the gaping grave, all saying in unison, "Sweet dreams, honey." Then, I am pushed into the dark abyss, screaming as I fall. After descending for a few brief moments, I land on a small white object. Realizing it is my bed, I look around to see I'm back in my room. Ivy's birdcage is where I left it, but she is gone, the door wide open. I rise to my feet and glance about as I hear her soft chirps bouncing around the room. She is nowhere to be found. "Ivy?" I try to mumble out. My own voice sustains around me like a whirlwind, forcing me to cover my ears. As my fingers brush through my thick hair, I feel dozens of metallic pins on my scalp. Stumbling into the bathroom and looking at the mirror, I see a plethora of needles stemming from my now bald scalp. My face is unspeakably demonic, inhuman. Tearing at the pieces of metal, I fall back against the towel rack in fright of my ghastly reflection. All I can hear at this point is a painfully high-pitched white noise, my balance becoming worse. The towels on the broken rack fall to the floor. I look down to see a cluster of massive spiders on the towels, quickly crawling all over my feet and ankles. Terrified and screaming, I begin to run aimlessly through my room into the main hallway, running into and knocking over objects along the way. I don't care. I just want to get these horrible things off me. But it only gets worse. The faces and photographs hung on the walls begin begging me for help and crying out in dreadful pain. At the end of the hallway, a horrifying darkness starts to swallow up everything in its path, heading my way slowly. The voices from the pictures shriek in pain as the darkness consumes them, then they die away. Rushing back into the bathroom, I slam the door shut. Collapsing by the sink, I sob in utter helplessness, finding no escape, no solace from this hellish realm I've stumbled into. This is not my home. It cannot be. As I stare at the bright sink, I notice the sleep pill container sitting on it. True horror gradually sinks into my mind as I begin to realize I chose the wrong medication. I must have been extremely drowsy and not paying attention to what I took out of the medicine cabinet. It is something much stronger than my usual sleep pills. Lunesta. Reaching out with trembling hands, I take the container and look inside to see a large number of pills missing. I remember it being full yesterday. Dropping the orange tube, I cover my perspiring face as the sickening truth overwhelms me. A feeling of discomfort wells up in my stomach, and shortly after I vomit as the room spins like a carousel. Too disoriented to even move, I only fall over on my side. The floor feels like hundreds of roaches, my skin crawling like never before. I am paralyzed as the darkness slowly swallows up the room, everything around me disappearing. Managing to rise to my feet, I step through the abyss, hoping to find something, anything. Desperate, I try to run. I stumble and fall clumsily a few times from the drug's effects, but stubbornly keep going in an awkward hobble. Eventually my legs give out, and I look ahead to see only the same bleak wall of darkness in front of me. I try to shout out, but no sound escapes my throat. This black world seems infinite, unchanging. I only wish for the ability to feel something, to hear it, to know anything here is real in this cruel isolation. Against my wishes, No one comes to my aid. No sound rescues my ears. I cannot fathom how long I've been here. All I can feel is my sanity slipping away with each traumatic moment. Growing weaknesses ravage and gnaw at my suffering mind. I truly have nothing left. My entity has stumbled into the closest thing to hell. Then again, I wonder, is this hell itself? Or is there no such thing, only endless black after death? I feel nothing, yet a vast range of negative emotions beyond my human understanding. Escape has abandoned this place, no door or portal back to life. This is the true essence of my existence, seconds suspended in frozen time. Alone I am, the tormented I am.